So I used to think that craniosacral therapy was just some feel-good, new age, massagey thingy. Well, as an Alexander technique teacher, I was showing people how to take responsibility for their use, and I had this kind of smug superiority to craniosacral therapy. And Robert Rickover, however, has been teaching Alexander technique for more than 30 years, and he said he learned more about freeing his neck from craniosacral therapy than from Alexander technique. And Robert Rickover makes the point, the truth is that many investigators other than FM Alexander have gained valuable insights into human functioning and have developed effective methods and procedures of their own. We would do well to investigate these with an open mind. We may even want to incorporate some of them into our own teaching, just as Alexander did. Rickover writes, I have made significant improvements in my use and functioning as a result of my experiences with the Feldenkrais method, Tomatis method, acupuncture and acupressure. Craniosacral therapy has taught me more about freeing my neck than years of Alexander training. So Ingrid Bacci is an Alexander technique teacher in New York, and she is also a craniosacral therapist. And she makes the point the body can hold emotions that are repressed. In Alexander training, I got a tremendous release from my body from physical pain. At the same time, I felt a lot of emotions flooding up, and I found craniosacral therapy useful for processing that. So my jaw started locking up. While Alexander technique helped me release tension throughout my body, I couldn't figure out how to release the vice-like sensation that came into my jaw. Went to a craniosacral specialist. She did some specific things that helped that. So unlike with Alexander technique, you can go into a semi-hypnotic state in craniosacral therapy. So in Alexander technique, you're being taught a method, so you have to stay alert and conscious. When you get craniosacral, it's passive, you just lie there. She says, I started flashing back to something I could not recognize. I started crying. When I was finished crying, the pain in my jaw was done. And craniosacral is about unwinding muscle tension, where the complex fascial and muscles unwind. It's learning to talk to the tissues. Why don't you show me how you want to unwind? So there are certain tension patterns where Alexander technique works well in releasing them, notes Robert Rickover. But with other complex tension patterns, it's hard to imagine how you could usefully direct yourself out of them. I've become aware through 20 years of craniosacral work of specific tensions that I never noticed before with many years of Alexander teaching. No one ever called them to my attention. They were under the radar, what an Alexander teacher could even notice. Ingrid makes the point that she learned through craniosacral therapy that we may not release certain tensions because we're emotionally committed to them. They're part of the way we hold ourselves in life, and they're bound up with fear or anger or feeling burdened. And you can bring a sense of the emotional quality of that tension to the client, and they can work with it more consciously through Alexander technique style of direction. So the Alexander technique shows you how you can take up space in the world that you're entitled to. You don't have to scrunch yourself up.